And really, I have to say without a doubt, that is probably the sickest I have been in likely about 10 years, to the point I'm almost embarrassed to think about the fact that the flu took me out so quickly.
Hit the subscribe button and the bell notification to become part of the Transplant Helper community.
Hey folks, welcome back to the Transplant Helper again today. My name is Jim Merle, and yes, unless you've been hiding under a rock now for 2, maybe 3 weeks, you probably already realized basically the flu is running rampant across the southeastern United States. It's in the schools, it's in the workplace, it's in the churches, it's in our entire community. There are people falling left and right to the flu, and my understanding is, from personal experience, they're having a really hard time. Now that's quite puzzling to me based on the fact that we've gotten so good at protecting ourselves over the last 2.5, 3 years because of COVID. I think we've gotten really good as a society, really, about trying to shield or protect ourselves from most things that are going around. However, I think within that lies the problem, and that is we have been overprotected, perhaps in some cases, not all, but in some cases, maybe we've been overprotective over the last 2 years, in that we've been so inundated with COVID that we have not even noticed the flu. There have not been many cases, and I don't believe our bodies are as protected as they once were. I think our immune systems took a tremendous hit during that. I know it seems mine did, and maybe we've gotten a little bit lax at this point into being considerate or even concerned about the flu itself. And so because of that, it's been about a week ago now, last Monday as a matter of fact, I actually fell victim to the flu myself. Now, the way things went for that, I'd been doing great all day long. I felt absolutely fine, other than one thing I'll mention in a moment. But basically, I thought I was handy dandy. I was perfect. Until later on that afternoon, it was about 6:30, 7 o'clock in the afternoon, I began to get a series of severe chills. And I knew by that something really was coming on. Now, I mentioned something that kind of occurred to me a little bit earlier, and that was basically my Apple Watch had been going off all day long with heart rate notifications telling me that my heart rate was over 100 even at rest. And I typically, if I'm really thinking about it, I typically realize that prior to me ever getting any type of a fever, temperature, or something like that, or any other symptoms for that matter, a lot of times the very first indicator that something's kind of swimming around and going on inside is that my heart rate will be up at rest. Now, like most of us perhaps, my heart rate has been up for the past 9.5 years or so since transplant in general, but for me it generally hovers around the 85, 90 range, something like that. And typically at rest, it can even go a little bit lower, which I'm thankful for that. However, anytime I'm getting sick or something's kind of beginning to sneak in, like a cold, a flu, a virus and stuff in this case, my heart rate goes up, and it's particularly noted when I'm at rest. And so my heart rate had been up all day, but that didn't occur to me. It didn't dawn on me what could possibly be going on. But when the fever and the chills came on, I knew there was a problem. Now, I went through the night Monday night pretty well miserable, woke up Tuesday morning so sick that I decided to take myself to an urgent care facility just to get tested to make sure I was clear on flu and COVID, strep, the typical things. I go in, they test me for everything. They find nothing, okay? The doctor actually tells me, she said, "You seem to be fine." I'm like, well, I know I'm not fine, but even though I'm negative, I'm pretty sure I've got the flu. So I asked her at that point if she didn't mind just treating me as if I had the flu. And I mean by that, giving me a box of Tamiflu. That's really what I wanted. I wanted a little bit of help, a little bit of a booster to kind of cross over so I could do a little bit better. She tried to prescribe that, but as it turns out, because we have not seen very many cases of the flu in the last 2.5 years or so, actually, it turns out it's on back order pretty much everywhere. Most of your local pharmacies, most of your chain pharmacies like CVS, Walgreens, Rite Aid, other things like that, Walmart, a few others, they don't have any in stock. It's on back order because the manufacturing of that particular pill slowed down during the COVID because they were just simply not diagnosing any flu cases. So I had a really hard time getting that. I'll tell you how I got it later. Long story short, I went through the day on Tuesday, still feeling terrible. Woke up Wednesday morning, decided to call my coordinator. That's always good advice, by the way. I gave Miss Connie a call, and immediately when I told her my fever had gone as high as 103 the night before, she said, "Mr. Merle, you need to come on in. You need to get over to the emergency room right now. We'll check you out, run full viral panels, do some other exams, and make sure that you're just clear on everything since you have not came back positive at that point for anything." So I chose to do that. I went ahead and followed her instructions. Took myself to the ER. Thankfully, she had called ahead, told them I was coming. So as soon as I walked in, even though the ER was packed with people, I saw at least 40 people in the waiting room, probably many more in the back. They took me straight back. I told them who I was. They said, yes, your coordinator's already called us. Come with me. They took me to the back. So I got it put in the room, eventually admitted to the hospital basically, but mainly just for observation while they kind of kept a heart monitor on me and checked me out. Now, I came back again negative for flu and COVID and their little quickie panels, as I call them. But as they run an entire full viral panel, which checks for over 30 or 40 different viruses, eventually I did come back positive for the flu. Now, by that point, thankfully, I'd been in the hospital about 24, 30 hours at that point. I was actually feeling great. The fevers had broke. A lot of things were doing a little bit differently. And so they sent me home again, basically without having done much of anything. I'm fine with that, but thankfully my hospital transplant pharmacy did have the Tamiflu available, so I picked up a box of that before I left. Been taking that just as a precautionary measure, that 1-a-day dose instead of the 2-a-day dose, which is kind of the maintenance type thing. Anyway, I've been taking that, and I'm absolutely fine now, other than I seem to have a little bit of difficulty kind of picking up my full energy, trying to get back to my full potential. But symptomatically, I'm fine. No fevers, no cough. I'm all clear. But I did want to share with you 3 huge mistakes I know for a fact I made leading up to this that I want to encourage you not to make in the future, because these are basically the reasons why I've not been sick in a long time. I've not been this sick as I was last week in probably about 10 years. I've actually not been sick at all in over 2 years, because one of the things that is most important going into any season of colds or flus or viruses or COVID or anything is to prepare your bodies to get your immune systems ready, built up, so that they can fight for themselves, even though you and I are somewhat immune suppressed. So number 1, first off, prioritize rest. The very first thing you have to do that I've not been doing well is prioritizing rest. I have a terribly bad habit that, even though I've had some difficulty sleeping in the past, right now, if I'm honest with myself, I can generally go ahead and lay down and go to sleep at night. I can do that fairly easily, as a matter of fact, in comparison to times past. But honestly, I just don't always do that. A lot of times, I do what everybody else does. I work throughout the day. I get as much done as I possibly can. I deal with the family and the children when they come in. We get homework, baths, showers, whatever. We get through the day, and then once everybody else is in the bed, including my wife, I typically come right back in here and sit down in my office and get to work on my computer doing something. And I end up doing that to midnight, 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and then thinking I can run back to bed, doze off, catch a few hours sleep, and be just fine. That is not the case. I have failed at that. I did not prioritize rest. Therefore, when you're tired, even if you don't feel tired, when you're not allowing your body to rest and recover like it's supposed to at night, you cannot properly prepare your immune system to fight off what is there on the outside. And so with flu season sweeping as it was, and me kind of ignoring that, I did not prioritize rest. So that's the number 1 thing you need to do, prioritize rest. Number 2, which I didn't do well at, you must minimize stress. You must minimize stress. Again, it's been a stressful season for me, no doubt. It's been pretty much about a month ago now, not quite a month ago, my oldest daughter got married. So I was dealing with my first child, growing up, being a big girl, and getting married. And that time was extremely stressful. On top of the fact that I've been very busy, I've been traveling a lot, I've been doing a lot of different things. I've tried to keep up with this and that and the other. And I just sometimes get overwhelmed, even though I think for the most part, I'm very good at dealing with stress. I'm very good at managing my stress. The truth is, it's impossible to manage that much stress, okay? If you don't allow yourself to calm down, take a few moments, take a few deep breaths, take some time to relax, just listen to some music, do whatever it takes, go out in the sunshine, do something to minimize stress. Actually, what you're doing is you're minimizing your immune system. Again, if your immune system is under a lot of extra stress or additional stress, it just doesn't respond the way that it should. So here again, I faced the flu. It was sweeping through. I was at a pretty high stress level. Bam, it got me, and I was down. So that's something that is a no-no, but I will encourage you to do so. Minimize stress. So not only prioritize rest, minimize stress. Thirdly, and most importantly, probably, you need to maximize your nutrition. And what I mean by that, yes, a lot of that definitely has to do with the actual diet that you're on, making sure that you're eating a lot of fruits and vegetables, particularly raw fruits and vegetables whenever available, maybe steamed or whatever, making sure that you take in a lot of great nutrients to help the body. And if you're not willing or able to do that, perhaps some supplements will be needed, some multivitamins, or specifically in my case, certain minerals and vitamins that are essential to fighting off would-be colds, flus, viruses, whatever. Things like vitamin D, vitamin C are very important. B12 or other B vitamins are important in that. And there's a long list of vitamins and minerals that your body essentially needs in order to prepare itself best for being able to ward these things off when they do come through. And I've done a terrible job at that. I've kind of gotten lax, even though my team, thankfully, they always do. Every time I go in annually or something like that, they'll do complete checks and panels, whatever, through my blood work. And they'll say, okay, here are the levels that are high, here are the levels that are low. And they'll actually prescribe me supplements via real prescriptions that I can take that help me with that. Just kind of gotten a little lax in that. I haven't had that checked in a long time because of COVID and such. Some of my appointments were canceled or cut short or minimized, because they were non-essential. And so I just hadn't kept up with that well. I'm very certain that when I go in for my annual review, I think it's next Friday, it's this Friday actually. I'm pretty certain when I go in, they're going to be doing some checks. And they're going to say, hey, here are some areas in which you're vitamin deficient, and here's what you need to eat and or swallow in a pill form to help you with that. And I haven't done very well at that. So I think basically I've made a ton of mistakes. No, I shouldn't say basically. I have. I'm raising my hand. I have made a ton of mistakes. I did not prioritize rest. I did not minimize stress. I've certainly not maximized nutrition. And so my body was not fit. It was not prepared. It was not ready to fight the cold and flus and viruses that came through. In this case, it was the flu. My body wasn't prepared for that. So I've got to do better. So this is just a reminder to myself. I'm looking in the mirror first. And it's a reminder, or maybe just allowing you to understand that your body has to be prepared. No matter what the case is, you've got to get yourself ready. And I promise you, these three things that I failed to do will actually protect me in the future as they have in the past, and will help you as well. Thank you so much for joining me today. Until next time, stay stronger, my friends.